Humor. That is something where now our German listeners will say, well, I never used that, and it's quite inefficient, isn't it? Today, we're going to talk with one of Europe's leading experts about humor, former BBC News reporter, Jeremy Nicholas. Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good, and you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. Of course, many of our listeners, and of course, due to the fact that I am German, quite a number of the people will be Germans as well. And you just recently, I think, hosted a quite prestigious conference in Germany as well. They, of course, will wonder, well, I am not a funny person. I know that humor might be helpful, but I am just not funny. So this is not really for me, is it? What would you tell these people how to approach humor when you have no idea how to do it?
Well, I just think approach it like you're learning another language. So if I wanted to give a keynote at a German conference, I would learn to speak German and I would deliver it so that people could understand it in German. But there's two ways to do it, really. You could learn the language or you could get someone to translate it for you. So there's two things that I offer people. I'll either teach them how to be funny, teach them the techniques of it, or I will just take their talk and I will make it funny for them by writing funny lines and tell them, deliver it like that and you will get a laugh. And I think what you're sort of referring to is that people think that you're either born funny or you're not. And I think that's nonsense. You know, you can learn it in the same ways you can learn a language. It's like saying you're either born French or you're not. You know, unfortunately, I was born in Germany, so I can't speak French. Well, no, you could just go to classes and learn how to speak French. And anyone can learn how to be funny because there are definite rules that you can follow. And I say to people when I do my courses, you know, I'll guarantee you'll get a laugh. And if you don't get a laugh, you can have your money back. And I've never given anyone their money back. I've had to run away quite fast from some places, but I've never given anyone their money back.
so of course, that's a good one. So,
see, I've made you laugh.
Yes, exactly. So you just said there are certain rules. Could you? Because I cannot think about humor and rules seem to be quite the opposite of what I expect how humor works. And of course, I either have a sort of talent or you don't. What kind of rules, can you give us an example or two of what kind of rules are there when it comes to humor?
So one really simple structure for a joke is that you say a normal thing and then another normal thing and then a weird thing. Mm-hmm. So you'll know from professional speaking world that you talk about the rule of three. Whenever you're speaking at a conference, you give people three things. In comedy, we don't call them threes, we call them triples. And the idea being that the first one is normal, the second one is normal, and the third one you think is following that same pattern, and it's not, it's weird. And because of the fact that it's different to what you're expecting, it produces a response which we call a laugh. So it's like a joke that you'll see in cultures all over the world where three people walk into a room. So in England, the joke would be three men go into a room, and it might be an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman, say. And then one of them does something. The second one does something that's a bit similar. So you've started a pattern, you've reinforced the pattern. And then the third one does something ridiculous, which subverts the pattern. And so because you're expecting it to go another way and it doesn't, you laugh. And you'll see that all the time. Now I've said that to you. It's a bit like I've just revealed how a magic trick works. You'll still see the magic trick and you'll go, oh, I know how they do that now. And you'll see this now with speakers all the time. Just listen for the threes: normal thing, weird thing. Or it might be small thing, massive thing. Meaning, and when I say thing, it might be overreaction to a situation. So yeah, that is one of the structures that I'll teach people, the triples: normal, weird, or small, massive.
Okay.
And that, because people know that, you don't know that you know it, but you recognize the rhythm when you hear it. And that will trigger a laugh. So that's one of the rules.
So let's, of course, say I work in a financial department. I have to present the numbers of the year: revenue, profit, number of people working here, employee turnover, how many were sick, how many came back. So numbers, Excel spreadsheet. That's what Germans do when they want to have fun, Excel spreadsheet. So how do you want to make these numbers, absolutely dry stuff, funny?
Yes, so that is quite tricky if your subject is very dry. But I think that just about any subject you can get laughs out. So one time I was the host of an award show called the Good Funeral Awards, and it's for people in the funeral industry. The Funeral Awards, yeah. So it's for undertakers, crematorium assistants, priests, anyone that conducts a funeral ceremony. People, the categories were Gravedigger of the Year, Funeral Assistant of the Year, Best New Funeral Celebrant, Lifetime Achievement in the Funeral Industry. And these are very dry subjects, but the audience were very jolly. And they were relieved to have a laugh. So with something like numbers, I think what you can do is you can use a technique called truth and pain, where you just say something that's that's true, that the whole audience would be able to identify with, and you say it in a sort of ironic way, and because of the shared experience that they've had pain of that, they would laugh. So it's like a comedian says, have you ever noticed that? And then they say, the person in front of you always pays by check when you were in a hurry. And it's the people in the audience will think, oh yeah, I get that. I always join the queue that doesn't go as quick as the one next to it. Most about 90% of British humour is about queuing. You need to be aware of that. So with your numbers thing, I think supposing like October was a dreadful month in this conference for this company you're talking about, just by saying this happened in July, August, September, and then just by saying October, I don't think we want to talk about October, do we? People would all think, oh yeah, because October was bad, so they would all laugh, and it would be the shared experience of, gosh, wasn't October dreadful?
Yeah.
So yeah, but the big thing is, don't think, oh, I've got to write jokes, because as soon as you write a joke, if you start thinking, right, I've got to talk about numbers. So what joke are there about numbers? And then you go and Google numbers, funny jokes about numbers, and you'll find hundreds of funny jokes about numbers. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, as soon as you say a joke, you put pressure on that audience. And the pressure is, first of all, will they find it funny? Secondly, will they get it? Is it appropriate? Have they heard it before? Is it going to go on too long? Are they going to be folding their arms thinking, oh, where's this going? So much better not to completely avoid jokes and just use funny lines where you say a serious line that actually has something, and then what I call an afterthought, which is a funny thing that comes into your head about it. But don't ad-lib it. Think about it in advance, but deliver it as though you're ad-libbing it. And I think audiences like it when they look like you're making it up as you go along. But don't actually make it up as you go along, because that's a bit risky, because then you might say something inappropriate that you didn't know was in your head, and you didn't mean it to be taken some way, but they took it another way. So I think deliver it like you're ad-libbing, but don't actually ad-lib it.
Yeah. So just to give you an example of that, because that will be my next question. When you start to make jokes, there's always this fine line where you say, that's funny, and the next thing might be not funny. I'll just give you an example. I attended a conference, spoke there, was the final speaker, and the guy from the financial department, I think just by coincidence said, well, in the financial department, it's Janet and 5 men, that's how she likes it. And the whole room went quiet, and the temperature dropped by 10 degrees, and the speaker never recovered from that, including the complaints afterwards. So how do you... It's of course quite hard to guess, but how do you know what is appropriate and what is not?
Yeah, so I have a sort of checklist that I run through in my head whenever I'm saying anything. Is it racist, sexist, homophobic, anything bad about being disabled, anything that's likely to have cultural sensitivities? But the thing is, if you're ad-libbing it, if you're making it up as you go along, you have got to run those filters live. And that is scary. Now, fortunately, I'm not racist, sexist, homophobic or anything, so I'm never likely to say anything bad. But there's always the worry that someone in the audience might interpret something I'm saying as bad because they haven't quite got the same sense of humour as me. So when I used to read the news on the BBC World Service, the radio news show, I always used to try and read 4 words ahead with my brain to what my mouth was saying. So that you know whether to go up or down, because what's coming up. It's like when you're driving a car, you've got to be looking 100 meters ahead of you rather than looking straight ahead of you. Otherwise, things will arrive very quickly. So that's how I learned to read the news, that you read ahead. So if for example it was a football score, you would need to know Arsenal 1, Manchester United 3. And you need to know that you're going up because Manchester United have scored more goals. And it's the same with doing stuff that might cause offence. You need to be going ahead in your brain so that your brain has those 4 words ahead of your mouth to think, is it racist? No, that's fine. Is it sexist? No, that's fine. Is it homophobic? No, that's fine. Anything else? No, that's fine. Are you sure? Yeah. Can I say it? Yes, you can. And that's what's happening in the 4 words that your brain is ahead of your mouth. So that's why it is quite dangerous to ad-lib stuff. And the trouble is, if you do say something that's a little bit dodgy, but it's okay, you're going to get away with it and people laugh, then the speaker then sometimes thinks, oh, if they like that, they'll like this, and then they'll do something they never should have done that was fine with their mates at the pub or at the golf club, or family friends that would know that wasn't too bad because they're not that sort of person, but people that don't know it. So while I'm in favour of ad-libbing, I think write your ad-lib lines the night before, but deliver them like they're ad-libs, and then you're 100% sure you're not going to say anything dodgy. But most of it is just common sense, but still, I reckon every conference I do, there's some speaker that says one line. I think, why on earth would you think that is an appropriate thing to say in a mixed audience, to a business audience? When you're on the stage, everything you say reflects on you and your company, so don't say it. It's like when people swear. I never swear at a business event, and yet some speakers think, oh no, you've got to be authentic, you've got to be genuine. I swear, and if people don't like it, it's their fault. And I think, well, yeah, but you might be really good, and 90% of the room don't mind you swearing, but it's the 10% who then on the feedback forms afterwards say it's a shame they did this, or the person that was going to refer you to something else or line up a big bit of work for you that then thinks because they swore, I'm not going to use them. So yeah. The thing is with swearing, people will laugh more if you swear. They will laugh more because it shows a bit of passion, and we're used to the fact that it's a stand-up comedian, when they get to a funny bit in their routine, if they put a swear word in, that's the punchline. So we're kind of used to that. It's like underlining it or putting yellow highlighter pen. Oh, this is the funny bit because I've sworn. But the trouble is, 90% will laugh more, and the 10% that are quiet are the ones that you've got to worry about. So I just have a rule: don't swear. And it's something, when I started in radio when I was 22, I made this decision: I won't swear on the radio, and then I won't swear in real life anymore, and then I don't need to think about it when I'm on the radio. And so I literally now just swear when I watch football.
I think you're a West Ham fan. I think there's quite some space for swearing in there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's probably why I'm a comedian, because I'm a West Ham fan, and because we've had so little success. Quite a lot of the top comedians in the UK are West Ham fans, and it's almost like a self-defense mechanism. We've used it as therapy.
Yeah, excellent. So that sounds like humor is not, as many people think, some sort of talent. Humor is always well planned, and you always basically prepare everything you say in advance, but it still sounds very spontaneous. And I saw you hosting many different events, and always brilliant. How do you make it sound natural and not very planned, so people get, oh, that's the joke coming up? How do you make that happen?
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, I distance myself from the comment that it's not some sort of talent. It is a great talent to have, but everyone can learn it. But it's a bit like I could teach you to ride a bike, but I couldn't turn you into Lance Armstrong, or probably need a better example because he was a bit of a tragedy, wasn't he? Bradley Wiggins, Mark Cavendish, someone like that. I could teach you to ride a bike, but I can't turn you into a world beater. Yeah. So I do think that there are some people that just have funny bones in their body. So there is that great talent. I think the best thing to do is you have to. There's only two things to worry about, really. One is the writing of the material, and one is the delivering of the material. And so you said, how do you make it look natural? And the way you make it look natural is you learn the material so well that you don't need to think about how you're delivering it. It's just that you become unconsciously competent at delivering it. You just don't even need to think about it. It's like when you first learn to drive, and for the first few months after you've passed your test, you're driving along, and you're really having to think about your distance away from the curb and where you are, and look ahead for traffic lights. And then after a few months, suddenly there'll be one day when you drive home and you think, I don't even remember how I did that, because you've just got used to doing it. And that's what you need to do with any kind of speaking. And with comedy, you've just got to go even further beyond that. So it looks like you're making it up as you go along. So I once did a TV film with Little Britain, two British comedians, Matt Lucas and David Walliams, and they did a UK tour of their comedy show from television. And it was fantastic. And I spent the day filming with them and asked them about all the sketches they did this interview, then went to see the show in the evening. And it was just brilliant, apart from one bit where for 5 minutes, one of them went wrong and the other one wouldn't help them out by feeding them the line. And they just riffed and just sort of bantered on for about 5 minutes. And the audience loved that even more because it was clearly unscripted and natural. And I'd learned a real lesson that day. People love it when you are just chatting rather than you're speaking. In fact, I liked it so much that I asked them, could I have tickets when it came to London 2 months later on the tour so I could take my wife? And we went along and they did exactly the same 5 minutes where they went wrong. And they went wrong in exactly the same place. And all of the banter was exactly the same. And I couldn't believe that I'd fallen for it. And I realized that what must have happened at some point on that tour, they must actually have gone wrong. And they delivered these lines and taken the mickey out of each other. But then they'd learned what the audience liked and they delivered it like that. So that is the secret. It's to look effortlessly natural, but actually to plan it absolutely in advance. So I used to do a show with a friend called Phill Jupitus, who's a comedian in the UK. He's on all sorts of panel shows, been to the Edinburgh Festival many times. And I just remember when I first got to know him, having a drink with him, saying, Phill, I'd seen him do 20 minutes at a comedy club. And I said, so, how much, if you do that show again tomorrow night, how much of that will be the same? And he went, all of it. It'll just be exactly the same. And I said, really? Is that? I said, but it looks like you just make it up. He goes, yeah, that's the whole skill of it. But he said, if I've spent a year writing 20 minutes and getting it exactly right, knowing exactly where the laughs are, why would I then go on tour and do a different show each night? So that is the trick. It's delivering stuff as though it's for the first time, but actually you know where the laughs are, so you know where to pause.
Awesome. So just to wrap this whole thing up here, when we now have people sitting there and think, okay, I am going to give it a try, they might of course feel quite awkward and they may not have the courage to actually do it. When you could give them top 3 tips, the very first 3 tips where they should begin when they're sitting in front of their presentation and say, I want to be funnier than I was last time, what were your top 3 tips?
So the top 3 tips is don't try and be funny all the time. So if you're, say, doing a 40-minute presentation, I would think just put 3 laughs in it. If you're someone that doesn't try and, doesn't normally have laughs, 3 laughs. So that's literally one after 15 minutes, one after 30 minutes, and one at the end.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you get to the funny bit and you think this is where they should be laugh, you stop and you wait for them to laugh. And if you feel self-conscious because you're not used to doing that, have a drink of water. And if you've written the line well and you've delivered it well, they will laugh. Have your drink of water and just wait. But that's where most speakers go wrong. They say something funny and then they're a little bit embarrassed because they've done something new and they just put their head down and carry on. And so while the audience is still laughing, they're carrying on. And then it means the next time you say something funny, they won't laugh because they'll be worried about missing the next bits. So you have to pause and you have to really wait. And sometimes I'll wait 2 minutes, but eventually they will laugh. That is a joke. They don't, I never wait that long. So yeah, make sure you don't put too many things in. Pause. And then the third thing to remember is always keep your status, because if you're a business speaker, you don't want to become a clown, because if you become a clown, then they won't remember your message and they won't trust your message. So you need to be a wit, not a clown. And the difference being that a wit is someone that you laugh with, a clown is someone that you laugh at. So just make sure you don't become a clown. Otherwise, they will laugh, but they just won't then at the end when you want them to buy something or change their pattern in some way or whatever your whole point of your talk is. Because you're a clown, they've just laughed at you and then they go, oh, no, it's the funny man. I'm not going to laugh at that.
Yeah, excellent. So, and I understood that right. If people just say, I want to have a professional doing it for me, you offer the service that you make other people's speeches funny.
Yeah, so I have a thing called Tickle My Keynote. which is I spend 3 hours with someone, usually online at the moment, but it can be in person, and they deliver their presentation, or they just send it as a video for me to watch, and then I have a couple of hours with them just talking about it. And then a week later, I come back and I say, these are 20 funny lines I've written to go in your talk. This is where they go. And then we spend an hour or so online just practicing delivering them. And that's that. So that's like me translating your talk into funny for you. If you want to learn how to be funny yourself, then I do a 6-week online course, which is just one live call a week. And then all the rest is online exercises and videos. And that is teaching you the techniques like that one I said about the triples, like about how to pause. And there's about 10 different structures that I teach on writing. And then the rest is all about delivery.
Great. Perfect. I'm going to put your contact data in the show notes of this podcast, if that's okay for you. People can contact you directly when they want to have you as their event host, or when they want to have funny lines in their speech. So, of course, I have to thank you for your time, especially in these challenging times. It's really great to have you here. And, well, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.